Hi everyone, this is Salam. I am really feeling kind of bored from everything, or by everything. I don't feel very motivated. I think it may have to do with just the mood I'm in, but none of the things I do are exciting me right now. And I was just talking to Jonas and he was like, just don't go. Or no, I said, I'm not gonna go to these things. And he was like, maybe you should go, but then, like, participate in the way that you want to participate, you know? Which might be like, oh, I'm really tired, and so don't have a lot to say, or, you know, whatever. And I don't know. He has a good point, I guess, you know? So I'll see how I want to do that. But I have a Black Mom group that I'm part of, and there's a lot of people on there that talk about, like, or there's a lot of people there who have mixed families, I guess you could say. And then there's also that, and then there's other one is like a lot of people who on there that have really, really young children, maybe like 3 months or younger, or like, you know, whether it's like their second kid or their first kid or something. But I feel like I'm in a different mental state where I'm like, you know, like I have a toddler and it just feels different to be like taking care of a toddler than it is to talk about like a really, really young baby. Like I'm more like thinking about how to manage. I mean, there's a lot of overlap, but it just is very different. So I'm finding it less interesting to attend. And I know that there are other people who are on there who are who also have a slightly older kid. So I don't know. I mean, I guess we could tell the woman who runs it so that we could like maybe split up the group at one point and talk about like much younger versus like toddlers or something. I don't know, but and then I have the alliance meeting, which is like, you know, that potentially can give me some grant money for the program, which just means like money for me and potentially some incentives for volunteers and participants. But I don't know, we'll see. Yeah, other than that, I don't know. There's just so many things that I don't really know how to sort through, like what I want to attend and what I don't want to attend to, because we have such there's only so much time. And I'm like, okay, so today on my calendar, there's things that are my job, like I have to do it, so then I got to go to that, you know. And then there's a lot of like racial equity type of work that's not really part of my job directly, but it's more like, oh, because I'm Black, like wouldn't I want to organize with other people who are also Black? You know, yesterday there was like within my department there was a Black and people of color like group, and I actually thought that was kind of nice because people feel comfortable and they like actually talk about work, and like, I mean, not work, but like it's like a safe place where people can discuss things, and I think that's kind of healthy. I didn't know if I would have liked it, but I think it was actually kind of nice. So that was nice. I like that. But the one today that was like the entire university, that felt a little like removed to me, and I just didn't know. Like, I want to be aware of what they're doing and what's happening, but I don't know that I want to be actively participating, at least not right now, because I'm just like, I don't know, like, it feels like there's like more leg work I would have to do to understand like what's happening. And So I think I'll just kind of come in and out and participate that way. But today it was just not. They were talking about like how should this group move forward and do work. I'm just like, I have no idea. I don't know if I can answer that question. Although I might have some thoughts that I could email Ariam about. So that's one. The other is, the black mom thing is like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. The fact that I have a mom is a big deal to me, and it is probably something I should try to understand better about myself and try to process that experience more. I just wish that it was more, I don't know. Yeah, I wish it was more aligned to like the the age group or like the things that I care about. So maybe it is true. Maybe I could bring up like more conversations that are like specific. I think the age group thing really does matter. Like 0 to 5 is really, really a large. It's a huge range, and I feel like that's maybe doesn't really work that well if you're talking about someone whose mind is like they just had a baby versus like you had a baby and that baby is so like, I don't know. It feels like different, but I don't know. And also sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe it's not really the fact that they have young children. Maybe it's because they're like mixed. Maybe that's the thing that's different about it. Because I think mixed people and who have mixed children feel like a different kind of experience. So maybe I am looking for something more like, and the race side is one, and then the other is like, maybe instead of black moms, what I'm really looking for is just moms and like the experience of moms, but with people. Like, I want to talk more about being a mom, but with black people, if that makes sense. Like, I am most interested in talking about motherhood. But I like to do it with people who I don't have to explain myself around. But I don't necessarily want to talk about race always in that environment, although, of course, it's important. So, I don't know. We'll see how that will play out when I go today. So I mean, I don't know. If I was gonna quit on anything, it probably shouldn't be that one, because there's really not a lot of opportunities for that kind of engagement. So I need to hold on to it and see how I can make it better for myself. So that's one thing. But the other stuff is like the Ford School, which is the graduate program I attended, has an event, and it's a one-off event. And I don't know, it seems like I don't know that that's really gonna be a big thing for me. So I just don't know that I'm gonna focus on it and go to that, So yeah, so I think that I will go to the black mom one and try to insert myself a little bit more and see if I can get some experience there, and then definitely not go to the Ford thing. Definitely see if I can get someone else to go to an event that's tomorrow that people seem to be interested in. Potentially they might have more time or energy to go, so I'll delegate that one, see if that works, and then get my hair done tomorrow. So yeah, I think that really is my thinking. And then in terms of the podcast, like in terms of the podcast, I think I pretty much have it. And I know that one of my goals was like, oh, I want to I don't know, I want to like get a better job, blah blah blah, which is still, I think I do. But I think that like for this particular podcast, I think me just building network is and kind of learning how to think about myself as a Habesha person with an immigrant background, like that itself, it's like therapy that I'm trying to, it's more like personal development I'm trying to get out of it, and speaking and everything. And then in the future, maybe in the future, if I have more energy and capacity, then I could do a podcast that's more like geared to professional, or like I could start this way as a personal thing and then move it and see how I might grow it into something bigger. But initially I feel like doing, like I could start, the name of it could be broad, but I could really have a focus on Habesha voices, because that's like the relationships that I have. And then after that I could grow it more to be other Africans and be inclusive of that. But like I don't even have to be inclusive, because like it's my choice how I do it and what I want to get out of it, since it's my podcast. So yeah, I think that I just gonna start it with like maybe Adia, maybe Bree, maybe somebody like that, and then we'll see how it goes. And then my other podcast would be the event that we're talking about right now, so, or like the Sunday program. So I'm excited about that. All right, bye. Okay, this is not a podcast. Okay, not a podcast. It is just my thought. I want to talk about my journey with my health. And when I say health, I mean both physical health and mental health, and maybe other types of health, but mainly like how I feel about myself, how I feel about my body, how my body is doing, my weight, my energy level, my stress level, all of those things, right? Because they're all so interrelated. And the biggest thing, I guess, for me to say about that is I haven't really done a good job of taking care of myself much lately. Maybe always, but especially lately. And yeah, I'm really trying to learn new skills about how to take care of myself, how to love myself, how to make sure that I am my own advocate, which seems so basic, you know, like how do I not know how to do that? But it's not that I don't know how to do it completely. I do. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't be alive, right? Like if I didn't eat and sleep and all those things. But when you are living in the type of environment that we all live in nowadays, or many people live in, whether, I mean, I consider myself, I guess, middle class. I would say, you know, middle class. We're young parents. We are working. Both of us work full time. To many degree, we're both sort of in the early part of our career, so we have a tendency to invest a lot in our job. I would say that I probably do a lot more investment in my job than my husband, who kind of thinks of his job as a way to make money, you know, which is, and not like a passion project for him necessarily, where for me, it's kind of like I try to make it into like, oh, this is my career. I'm trying to like do community engagement and it means a lot to me, yada, 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 you know, so, and he makes more money than me. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that, yeah, we're middle class. We have, not only do we go to college, we both have master's degrees. Combined, I think we counted, we had 6 degrees in higher education, 3 masters and 3 undergraduate degrees. So, you know, we were highly educated people. However, we're also a second, you know, we are still a first generation Ethiopians. Both our parents immigrated here with us when we were relatively young. He was younger. He came here with his family when he was like maybe 8 or 12, and I came here when I was 15. But yeah, I mean, I'm in like early 30s and he's early 40s. like I said, relatively, we're both people who, it's not like we have a lot of money saved up where we could have a cushion. Like, we are in that initial phase of our careers. And not only are we, like, for me, not only am I trying to make a name for myself within my career or within my own field, but also just, like, I'm paying my student loans, which I have, like, $200,000 student loans, and I'm on a repayment plan that hopefully after 10 years, or maybe it's 9 now, after 9 years, I am able to get it forgiven as long as I work in the public sector or a nonprofit. So, you know, we're going to be working for the next 10 years because of loans, because we still haven't paid off our house mortgage. We do own a house in South Seattle, which is great. You know, we have that, but that does mean that, like, we still have to pay the mortgage, and it's not done at all. So I don't even know if it was 1/3 the way or something. We have a long way to go. So, and now we have a new baby, and so since we have a new baby and we want to have more children, maybe, you know, a total of 3. So the next 5 years, I'm gonna be, like, pregnant, then not working for 3-4 months at a time, maybe even taking more off. And if I do, then, like, my what's the word, I don't know if my forgiveness thing gets extended, or, you know, I don't know. So it's, like, lots of economic not challenges, but forces that we are navigating. And you know, we're really fortunate in many ways because we have formal education, we are employable, we live in the city of Seattle, we live near public transportation, we're both relatively healthy people, we have parents who are supportive. My parents, my mom particularly, is the one who is providing childcare for us, and you could just say, like, we don't really even pay her for that. So we have a lot of great, and I would say too, the other thing is, like, we have parents that are young enough that they are working, and we don't have anyone in our family, immediate family, that's relying heavily on us for their livelihood, which is great, and it is a reality for my parents, who are taking care of, like, their parents back home. They're helping extended family, their brothers, their sisters, so they have to send money every month for that, and we don't have that problem. And like I said, unlike our parents, we have formal education and work in professional fields that have flexibility, like working from home and taking midday off, you know, lots of flexibility in hours. So very different economic circumstances than our parents. And we also have our own economic forces that we are navigating through together as a couple, as married couple, and as new parents, and as young professionals, and as Black immigrant folks living in the United States, and being the first in our families to attend college, to attend grad school, then be in a professional force. So we don't have a lot of, we are creating our own roadway and our own roadmap as we go, because this is the first time in our lineage that we are doing this type of work. You know, our family background is that we're both from Ethiopia. Our grandparents, you know, they were farmers. They lived in the countryside. And after that, like, our grandparents, they lived in, or our parents and grandparents, they lived in the capital. They did labor work. They were people who lived in poverty, but also lived in their own country working and just living there. And then our parents are the first to come to the US and deal with that big change. So they set this new stage for our life and for our generations to come. And we are that first group of people who are really integrating into the American culture. And that does make for some really difficult adjustment for everybody, because as you can imagine, like, so much dynamic and marriage dynamic and family dynamic changes when you move across the world to live somewhere. And not only do you live somewhere, then you have kids here and you are trying to be successful in the merit of like being in America, and that's a lot to handle. But we are navigating, but I think that all of that then leads to a challenge around well-being, because we do know how to be successful in our education. We know how to be successful financially in our work environment, but it does come with a cost. I feel, it does come with some cost. I mean, one of it obviously is being so far away from our own culture, being in a place where who we are, our identity as part of us, ethnicity, race, or whatever, is a minority, and all of that. So there's that kind of psychological cost, but there's also a psychological cost of being a middle class working couple, where you are feeling like you're trying to balance your career trajectory and also like simple, or not simple, but basic things like having a baby, and how you have to try and make sure that it's not going to get in the way. You're having a baby is not going to get in the way of your career, and your career is not going to get in the way of you having children and building your family. So it is definitely a really difficult challenge. And I guess another way that my husband and I are the first in our family is, we are the first in our family to be raising young children in America too. Although my parents did have a very young, they did have a baby here, and so did his parents, but most of the kids and both our parents were already born in Ethiopia, and then they came here. So in many ways, we're for our siblings, we're the first one to be having children. And so again, we have a lot of firsts that we're navigating too. And I guess what I am trying to get at is, because of all of those reasons, I feel like we don't always do a good job of taking care of ourselves, like in terms of taking breaks and relaxing and enjoying things, instead of being so focused on survival and then like trying to do well economically or whatever, so that does make it difficult to have a really well-rounded mental, physical health. I think I would say my husband is really good at his ability to really be disciplined about food and exercise. It's really, really aspirational. I think that through my relationship with him, I've definitely improved my physical health and learned new skill sets, but I still have a long way to go before I really have integrated health and well-being as a central part of who I am as a person. Like, I still put my responsibilities about being a mom, being responsible for other things, community work, or things like my job, my career, ahead of my well-being. And it's worked for me to a certain degree, but I think now it's at a point when I'm a mom, it just adds a whole other dynamic that it isn't so easy to ignore your health anymore because you're being asked to like be there for a baby, and you cannot do that if you're not well yourself. And so definitely it's definitely a learning experience for us. And how are we going to make sure that we are going to really be healthy, have healthy relationships with each other, with the outside world? How are we going to be healthy physically? What are we going to eat? How are we going to eat? And what about our rest and all of those things? And it's definitely something that we as a family are working it out. And I think mostly I'm going to reflect on my own experience, because it's also very different to be a mom than it is to be a dad in the social ways that we are living in America or whatever, because it just isn't the same. It doesn't put on the same demands. There aren't the same type of expectation for a man versus a woman. So that's also another aspect of it. So I think I'll focus more on that, and maybe Jonas can sometime come on and reflect on his experience being a dad and how that impacts how he thinks about health and well-being for him. But for me, definitely focused on more myself, I would say that in the last 2 years, I got a job that I really liked, but it was also really time and mentally demanding, and I had some insecurities in terms of my ability to do the job, which really made me overwork, and just really just strengthened, built up my workaholic kind of tendencies. And it's been challenging to just say, what I'm doing is enough and just leave it, instead of trying to prove myself. But I feel like I spent a lot of time proving myself in my job the last 2 years. I think now I've calmed down a lot more. I think that there's been some changes that I advocated for at work that structurally have made my job more manageable mentally. So but I would say the first year and a half of my job were really, really difficult, especially the first year. And so that really took a toll on my well-being and my mental health. And then I had a baby. I was pregnant. Well, the reason why it was so hectic too my first year at this job is that I was building up a new project, launching it, and the project was really not well thought through before I got there. So it was a lot of things put on me to do, and I felt I tried my best to communicate the things to my supervisors, but I was reporting to people that were so high up in my organization. I was intimidated and didn't always know how to advocate for myself. So that really was a challenge. And then, we could talk about structurally how women's labor is undervalued, and how labor in general is undervalued. But especially when your work is around community, even though there's stated values about that for many institutions, but in terms of how they actually compensate and things like that is very different. So that's a whole different conversation, but I'll keep it more for myself. Yeah, I think there was a lot of me trying to prove myself and navigate through a new organization, and also loving the idea and the job that I did and really putting everything I had in it. So for literally a year, maybe a year and some change, I just worked Monday through the entire 7 days a week pretty much. So all my weekend I spent working, and so that was predictably was really terrible for my health, mental health and physical health. And then I got pregnant early on that job, and so that also was really difficult to navigate, because I was I had just gotten involved in this job, and then I just had a baby. I just got pregnant. It was really hard. didn't know how to navigate that again. I didn't know a lot of people who were in my own family who were pregnant and working. Like my mom wasn't working growing up when I was growing up, but she had all the baby, like all our family members or all of my siblings when they were born. When she was pregnant, she was not working. Plus, when she had my youngest, right when she got pregnant, she like stopped working. And I had thought that's what I was gonna do, but then I just started this job, and I was like, well, I'm not gonna quit now. So work through that, and you know, all the hormones and all of that. It was just a trip. So, but thankfully, like my pregnancy was really uneventful. My baby was really healthy. I was generally healthy. Again, just the stress was the only thing, but like physically there was nothing to worry about, which was a great relief for me. Then moving on to being after I had the baby, project launched, then I went on parental leave, and it just hit me, like the fact that I had been working for a year and some change, and then I it was just really difficult to stop all of a sudden after having worked like that much. And so I definitely developed like a really severe depression and anxiety, like a postpartum depression and anxiety. And that was really frightening, because not that I've never felt depressed or never had anxiety before, but just the severity of it was really a really big wake-up call, and I had to get care for it. And thank God that I did, and I have such a I don't know, like a supportive husband, and he was really championing for me to like really work through it. And so I don't know, everybody in my life, like my mom, my sisters, and all of those folks were really helpful in helping me work through that, which we can talk about that another time. But I think that period was really difficult, and then going back to work was really difficult. That was really difficult, because it's like energy's low. I was now less interested. Well, let me back up though. Like, of course, like when I had the baby, like I think sometimes people get confused about this, is that even when you're depressed, even whatever it is you're going through postpartum, like most of the time there are folks who have really like kind of psychosis type of postpartum mental illness, but mine thankfully wasn't like that. It was just very like, I just felt depressed, and I was just really nervous about how I was doing with Abim, and whether or not like I'm being a good mom or not. That was my biggest thing, was like I wasn't doing a good enough job. You know, that was my whole thing. So yeah, so I think, you know, that really was my main challenge. And of course I still loved my baby, and it was great, and it's being a mom, only moms can explain it or understand it, but you can have all the joy and also all the sadness at the same time. So, you know, some points I was like, oh my God, I feel like I missed out on my daughter's like first couple of months because I was so anxious, depressed, whatever. But at the end of the day, I think it is what it is, because your babies are always growing. They never stand still. So it's like, just take care of yourself and be with them that as much as you can. That's really all you could ask of yourself. So that happened, and then I went back to work, and lots of changes happened at my job that were somewhat, I guess, good, and then structurally change that helped me have more support at work, which was good. But then the other big thing was I was working with someone that reported to me, and she was really not a fun person to work with at all. And I think she herself had some issues that, you know, like, I don't know, we as people, we bring all that stuff to our job because we're human. It's hard not to have that. But it was really difficult to feel like I was working with someone who was just very negative and very, I don't know, negative and just like not a healthy, mentally healthy relationship. And the person left, which was honestly very good, and I was excited about that. But yeah, that process was difficult for me again, because I feel like I didn't have a lot of but yeah, so anyways, it's been a journey of that. And I would say that, you know, right after I got back to work, I really did try to like work out a lot, and that did help me with my mental well-being. I thought I did like very aggressive kind of exercise, like intense exercises that I went to a class for, and that was really cool. I did enjoy that. But it was really expensive, and it was like, I was like, no, I'm not doing that, because it was like $400 for an 8-week course, and it's for new moms and blah blah blah, and it's cool, but it wasn't worth $400. So at least it was worth it for that one class, but it's not something that I would be wanting or willing to keep paying to do every 8 weeks. So that was that. And I would say one of the most important things I did for my health in the last year was that we went to Ethiopia. My husband and I went to Ethiopia, and I actually just like left Abim, our daughter, with my mom for 3 weeks. And thank God my mom was willing to do that, and she actually was the one who came up with the idea of leaving her. I was initially thinking I was going to take her with me, but I was glad. I was doing my podcast, but here is Nuhamin and whatever. Okay, bye, gotta go.